It always hurts when a major gaming release doesn't live up to expectations, and Cyberpunk 2077 had some dangerously big expectations. Like, on a scale from Gears of War 6 to The Second Coming of Christ, the anticipation for this game goes right here. And then it came out, and... But while many have been quick to write off Cyberpunk, I don't think enough is being said about what the game does right. Let's remember, a lot of very talented people worked actually too hard on this game, so there has to be some merit to it. Now, the glitches and bugs have been discussed to death, and I don't really have much to say about them. I do think it was wrong for them to release the game on PS4 and Xbox One when they must have known that generation of consoles simply couldn't handle it. That's definitely an F for CDPR. However, I'll be discussing the game having played on the PS5, which was definitely still buggy, but also definitely still playable, enough so that I got to see the true Cyberpunk. I don't think I'm alone when I say that the world of Cyberpunk 2077 was what I was most looking forward to. I, like so many others, am fascinated with the cyberpunk aesthetic, so the promise of an open world in this style was pretty cool. Add on top of that it's made by the people who made the world of The Witcher, which, is one of the best made open worlds in the history of gaming, and you've got some very excited gamers. So, did the game succeed in creating the cyberpunk world we all wanted to escape to? In my opinion, yes. From its visual design to the very creative and impressively realized detail of the world's lore, I think Night City is the perfect example of what a cyberpunk world is. The world wears its influences very much on its sleeve, which can at times feel heavy-handed, but I don't think I can reasonably ask for a better world in terms of visual design and lore. But the aesthetic is only half the measure of the world. The game also promised solid immersion and gameplay justifications for being such a large world, and I think this is where many of the complaints lie. I've heard a lot of people say that the open world isn't immersive enough. Well, I'm about to say something which might make you a little upset. Cyberpunk 2077 is more immersive than The Witcher 3. I know, that statement just feels wrong, but hear me out. The Witcher 3 rules, okay? I'm not trying to deny that, and it truly does have a great open world. But, when I play The Witcher 3, I don't feel like I'm being immersed into a world. I feel like I'm watching the life and times of Geralt of Rivia play out. I certainly have input in his life, but this is a man with a carefully written backstory. He has his own emotions and thoughts which have nothing to do with me. Now Cyberpunk's V, he, or she, but I'll be saying he for this video because I played as a dude and not a dudette, he may be less of a defined character than Geralt, but for these kinds of choice-driven RPGs, that's a benefit. The player gets to define the character. And also, while there's no doubt Geralt is a badass, him being a Witcher in a world of humans always set him apart. I like that in Cyberpunk, V seems to fit nicely as another part of this world, instead of an outsider observing it. I've also heard people complain that the missions are repetitive. Now there is some truth to this. When you have such a big map filled with activities and side missions, you need variation to justify it. This is what so many other open world games have gotten wrong. Well, sure, when playing as a street kid, I will admit that most of my fixer contracts were some variation of kill this guy or steal these things. For a lot of players, I can imagine this got a little tiring, but I promise, if you look a little deeper, you'll find plenty of variety in these side missions. In my time with Cyberpunk, I saved a monk from non-consensual surgery, helped a guy who burnt his penis in a defective sex robot, had philosophical conversations with self-aware, self-driving cars, and comforted a grizzled police officer who was grieving the death of his turtle. If any of those sounded interesting to you, there's plenty more where that came from. For every generic action mission, there is a wacky and interesting one out there for you. Also, the game straight up lets you install mantis blades in your arms. How is this not incredible?